particular order, but maybe I'll start with Ram, since he's sitting on the extreme corner, right? So once again, the topic of the discussion is Reality Bytes, the role of HR in today's world, which is the title of the book as well. So Ram, given your extensive experience in various organizations, what is the real role of HR in today's organizations? How do you think, so part two to that question is, how do you think it has changed in the last decade? And your view on how do you see it evolving in the next 5 to 10 years? We probably have the same question for the others. We may choose the order, depending on who wants to go first.
I'll first start by saying, I think it's important, the reality bite is to forget that there is a HR. No, to me that's where I want to say. No, I say this. I'll tell you why, right? You, let's say you're a sports person. If you play football, you don't identify yourself as the position you play. You first start saying, I'm a football player, right? Similarly, let's say you play cricket. You don't say, I'm a first slip fielder. How do you introduce yourself? You don't introduce yourself by saying, you say, I am. So I think the first reality bite I want to put on the table is the moment we say we are in the business and I do a job or a role at this point of a time which happens to be HR, grounds us much better. Instead of getting into all the, I think, insipid debates, how to partner business, how do you really get a business perspective, I think these are insulting to people who are working in any organization in any role. Because it presumes that if you are an HR person, you are not supposed to know business. It presumes that you have to do something extra to know business. In my mind, whenever people say all these things, I get angry. You don't say this to a marketing guy. You don't say this to a finance professional. You don't say this to a sales professional. Why do you have to say this only to an HR professional? And it has become a fashion, and my problem is most HR people themselves aggravated by running conferences on this. How to partner business. So especially for the younger people, I believe that you should say I am in business. At this point of a time, the role which has been given to me happens to be HR. So that puts the canvas bigger. And I don't see any reason why any one of us are not in business, right? That's the first reality bite I want to really put on the table. What has changed, I think, between 10 years to now, I always say not too many things in terms of what happens changes in life, right? If you go back 4,500 years, if you found a civilized man in somewhere in Luxor in Egypt, right, and you brought him today into this world, the only thing you'll wonder is that, look, there seems to be things which are moving, which are having a different form, right? What moved as horses or chariots are moving as something else. It's not that it will take too long to adapt to this world, contrary to what we end up believing, and human beings themselves have not fundamentally changed, right? You look the same, you think the same, right? What pained those days paints even today. What made you happy those days make you happy today. So the essence of humanness has not changed. What was exploitation of those days is exploitation these days. What was at the point of an act of graciousness is an act of graciousness today. What was sagacity in those days is sagacity today. The form changes, right? So in a way today, if you're really looking at it, we have to understand that the form of HR has changed, but I don't think the spirit of HR has changed. I always believe that when you play the role of an HR, you're an arbiter. You're an arbiter between two parties. There is a party whom you bring to make all the assets productive, and there is the person who puts in the money and wants the money to be productive. So, if you are playing a good enough HR role, you should always, I believe, walk with a resignation letter in your pocket so that you are not intimidated in a boardroom by other people. If you are going to come to office to keep your job, then I personally think you are not necessarily somebody, a good professional. You have to really come back and say, here I am going to interpret both the parties, both the sides. I am the conscious keeper. Whoever crosses the line whichever at point of a time. It's not that you are not referee to blow the whistle and penalize somebody, but you should be able to really stand up and look into the eyes of whatever that power may be, and look into the power and say, hi, that's wrong. Please don't do this. If you don't do this, then where is the human part? There is only the resource part in it. So I think we agonize too often, too long on techniques, processes, bombastic words, all that stuff. Instead, if you take all this and keep it simple, we will know what our role is. Anil Kumble once, when I met him, told me, "Hey, look, Ram, people complicate cricket too much. And especially when ex-players are put into the commentator's box, they complicate it very much. Cricket is a very simple game. And that's why Anil is a great person. He said in cricket you can do only two things. You can make runs and you can stop runs. Whoever does these two very well wins the match. So go into the field of cricket thinking to do one of these two, depending on where you are. If you're batting, you make runs. If you're fielding, you stop runs. And taking wickets, stop runs better than any game. Similarly, I believe, if we end up looking at the role of HR in the business as to make all resources to be optimally productive without anybody or anything being exploited, you would have done your role. Whatever technique you use, and post-graduation helps, training helps, but more than anything else, never lose your humanness. You first start that and then you become a professional. So what will happen 5 years from now? I personally think, people who know how to really walk into a place and create value, they will find they will measure up to the demands of the world 5 years from now. People who go in there to earn a living will not stand up to things what they have to stand up, and they will take care of themselves but not take care of others. Whenever you take care of only yourself and don't take care of other people, you certainly are not doing the job of a human resource person.